Real quick, I talk a lot about formatting your text meaningfully, like using headings and pull quotes and paragraphs, and a lot of that's for the design side. But it's also very important for accessibility and semantic HTML. I don't harp on this these days as much because a lot of you aren't building HTML from scratch and you're not building these themes, but it is very important. For all kinds of reasons. So one, for basic legal reasons, for accessibility reasons, if you are working, especially for government, um, you need to make sure that your websites are designed semantically so that screen readers and alternate devices that people are using to access information on the web, so that your websites will work, basically. Some people who are blind have it read to them and they have to they are listening for certain cues so they can scan the information quickly using their hearing, which is time consuming. If you've seen it, there's videos where you can watch people doing it. Those who can't use, don't have dexterity in their hands are using alternate devices to scan and tap and touch. So it's important that you build pages and sites, especially front end coding. So the themes that we're working with, those are more important for accessibility on how they're built. So semantic HTML, to bring it back, basically calls a thing what it is. So in the history of web design, we used to just call every box was a div, and then you would call it something, a class, right? You would give it a name that you made up, and then years ago they came up with, well, like for accessibility and for all kinds of good reasons, let's give these boxes names that mean something. So that's why there's a header. There's HTML now that describes a header box and an article and a figure and a footer and a section. And that helps. It's easier to develop with because you know what goes in each box. It's not just where's that div that's wrapped in a div that's wrapped in another div. That's really hard to keep track of. It's lighter in file size. It's good for SEO because it tells the search engine robots that the content in the footer is less important than the content in the header, right? Um, and it also, as they found with like the Americans for Accessibilities Act, they found, those curb cutouts where you have a ramp that goes to like a crosswalk. Those were originally for people in wheelchairs, right, and walkers. And what they found is that once those were implemented nationwide, everybody was using them. You can roll your bike down it. You can roll your cart or your stroller down it. And so it that one example spreads to explain how making everything accessible for everyone helps everybody else. So it's a kind of a beautiful thing when you think about it. So if your video has captioning, maybe you are fully capable to watch the video, but if it's captioned, you can scan it easily, and someone who can't watch it can read it or listen to it. So this is I'll link to this article about semantic HTML, and Bill has a slide about semantic HTML. And it's another one of those things that you should know about for your background information in web design. And I'll add another link on I've done some work for governments making their sites comply with accessibility regulations. And there's a bunch of testers that you can run a URL through, and it'll highlight all the errors that make the site harder to use for people with adaptive devices. And again, having your site be accessible, it's gotten better. And I know there's a class at Sac City that I've heard a lot of really good things about on accessibility that I have not had time to take. But making things accessible, to wrap it up, making everything accessible makes everything better for everyone, especially these days. It's not as hard as it used to be. You used to have to add a lot of like extra code and take a lot of time, and it was kind of a pain in the butt. But it's gotten much better in the last 5 to 10 years. So I'm told. I don't do a lot of this work anymore, but I will look up some more informational articles for you to review. Thanks.